Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." And while I completely agree, belief is of utter importance in order to find complete food freedom, the other half of the equation is trusting the process and fully surrendering to the outcome, no matter what. In today's replay, I'm going to be talking about the messy middle and what it means to be in quasi or partial recovery from disordered eating. Sis, I can't wait for you to listen into this one if you haven't in some time, or if you're new here. Thanks for hanging out on the pod. I am so blessed to have you. Maybe you're just beginning the journey, or maybe you've been struggling for a while now. I believe in you, no matter where you sit. Today is the day to stop living with one foot in and the other foot out of your dream. The life where you aren't obsessed with what to eat or when to eat it, it's right around the corner. Tune into this one and get ready for this replay of one of the most top listened to shows. Happy Thursday. We are rocking and rolling on the Her Best Self podcast today. I'm super excited to share today's episode with you. We are surrendering to our eating disorder behaviors. We are letting go, embracing change. Today, we're talking all about quasi-recovery, what that is, because you can't change halfway. And I am here for you, sister friend. We are doing this. We are in recovery. We are accepting. We are becoming aware. And we are pushing our pedal to the metal because we don't need to be stuck here. We don't need to be in this quasi place. And so in today's episode, I'm going to talk all about surrendering to disordered eating once and for all. And if you're feeling stuck, you are going to want to listen in today, friend. This one is for you. Here we go. Hey girl, welcome to the Her Best Self podcast. I'm Lindsay Nickel, former competitive figure skater and perfectionist, turned God-led imperfect boy mom and digital CEO. If you find yourself constantly thinking about food and wondering if you'll wake up one day free from the obsessive thoughts and behaviors controlling your life, then I've created this podcast for you because I know exactly what it's like to be a downright hot mess trapped in a destructive cycle of disordered eating. I finally found freedom, and you can too, girlfriend. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with food and body and break the chains of control and show up in your best health, then grab your favorite Tarjay journal and let's get to it so you can start living your best life as your best self. Hey girl, I hope you are having a fabulous week. In fact, I am coming in to the mic today to share with you a topic that I get asked about frequently, all about the messy middle, all about quasi-recovery, all about being in the process of wanting to change your relationship with food and body and actually feeling like you're making progress, but at the same time, feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you're missing something. Like there's this key ingredient that you're just not getting because you still feel like you're idling in this place. This is what I call the messy middle. I talk a lot about this in private coaching with my clients, but surrendering is all part of this process. And I wanted to start today's show talking with you about what is quasi-recovery and really diving into signs that you might be experiencing right now that you're in that place. And so I'm going to share some of that research and some of those signs with you. Also looking at it from a lens of how do I get out of this place? Where do I go to next? Because the truth is you don't want to change halfway. I mean, why try this hard? Why come to this place and listen to the podcast? Why even want freedom from food controlling your life if you're only going to have partial freedom? I mean, you're here because you want full blown out freedom, happiness, a life of purpose. You want to live, you want to be present, you want freedom. But what does freedom look like? It can't be only halfway. And so quasi-recovery, in fact, what the dictionary.com says about what quasi means is seemingly, apparently, but not really, partially or almost. Quasi can be different from person to person. And honestly, this is a normal part of finding freedom from food controlling your life, is to experience this quasi place. It's the place of you're in partial recovery and you're in partial place in the journey. Maybe you've gained some weight or you've restored to some level of health, or you're not doing things like purging, binging, or restricting as if you once were. They're not as bad, I'm quoting, as you once were. Maybe you're eating more, but you have food anxiety still, or you're operating still with these food rules, or maybe you're continuing to feel some discomfort about your body. All of these things are, they're not necessarily alarms, but they are triggers to go, wow, I need to lean into that. What does that mean? Am I changing halfway? Have I fully surrendered? And so this episode, I hope, provides some clarity for your heart today. You can fall completely out of what clinicians label as an eating disorder. However, recovery is so much more than just meeting the standard BMI, anorexia diagnosis, or purging behaviors such as bulimia. And so what if you feel better than you once were, but you still struggle? And I dealt with this for years after my treatment. In fact, there were years where it's like I'm recovered, yet at the same time, I felt like I was still struggling with stuff, but I was doing the right, again, I'm quoting, behaviors, eating my meals and doing different things that I knew were challenging my eating disorder thoughts and beliefs. But at the same time, I felt trapped still, like there was still something I wasn't getting. If this is you, I hope that this episode really blesses your soul today, because we aren't meant to live a life of partial or almost. We are meant to live a full life. This episode today is not to make you feel any shame or guilt with where you are in this process, because as I mentioned, if you're feeling stuck, like you're in this place of idle, or you're in this place of, I'm just kind of here and I know I'm changing and I know that I want this, but I'm feeling blah. This is okay, because you know what this does? This gives us awareness, and we can appreciate how far we've already walked along this journey. And maybe you're in the very beginning. Maybe today you're like, I'm not even sure that I have a problem yet. I know this is a problem, so I'm here, but I'm still not ready to really accept it and what that means for my life. That's okay. Or maybe you're in the middle where you're like, I've done some work, but I'm still feeling quite hopeless, and that's okay. Ultimately, the key factor here is that true freedom is a life where your food and your body don't control every single ounce of your being. You are living your true self. You're living your purpose. You are living your truth. And you can fall out of being in a clinical diagnosis, and you can still have these behaviors, these beliefs, these things that are intertwined that have been part of you for years. And it's like you're going to war with a false identity. And that's exactly how I would describe it. This is that point of partial or almost. And so this can be really overlooked, because in my personal experience, I feel like it can leave you feeling very defeated. In fact, many women that I've worked with and continue to work together with today experience this sense of, I'm doing so much better than I was, but I'm still not there yet. And what I want to share with you today is that recovery is not a destination. You're not going to arrive one day and be completely healed. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for delivering me from this. Yes, God saved my life. I talk about that in my story. I talk about how this is so much more than a physical and a mental thing. It's definitely a spiritual thing as well. But it requires daily action. It requires that hard stuff. It requires literally finding you, recreating yourself away from these false sense of beliefs of what other people have put on your life and made you to believe as truth. And therefore you carry that into these eating disorder behaviors. And so ultimately, the purpose of many treatment facilities and many professionals, and while it's so much from a positive intent and love, it is to create that level of weight restoration or to create that place of healing. But what that looks like on paper may be completely different from what you're experiencing inside. And so what this does is shares with you. In order to get past it, it really requires that cold, hard truth and that reflection. I truly believe in all of my being that in order to fully recover, we have to fully surrender. I'm going to say that again for you. In order to fully recover, we have to fully surrender. We've got to stop putting rules on what recovery means to us, right? And I'm just sharing you the cold hard truth today. I mean, I spent many years being like, well, I'll recover, but only if that means that I can eat this. And I won't ever eat that. And I'm never going to be larger than this, or I'm never going to let myself go past that. And that is still putting parameters, putting control around what we are allowing our life to be and our core beliefs. And so I believe in order to fully recover, we have to fully surrender our false self and our false beliefs. We have to reinvent, we have to recreate, we have to transform into this new being, this new identity, this being that's better than we've ever imagined. And it is so real and it is so possible. And it's possible for you, girl, that I can feel it today. But recovery transformation requires total surrender and saying goodbye to your eating disorder and your eating disorder behaviors. And yes, that takes time. And yes, it's a daily choice. And yes, it is action after action after action, which can feel mundane when you're in the messy middle, but it isn't something to be ashamed of. And quasi isn't something we're in this place of what do I do next? And I'm kind of doing these things, but I'm not fully in. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's the pivotal moment of embracing how much has already been done and accepting as part of the process of full healing. We don't get anywhere fast that's worth going to. And in your journey through this healing process and learning your true self, dying to this place of surrendering to disordered eating ruling your life, part of this windy road of recovery, part of this destination that we're headed. And when I mean destination, I don't mean like a set point destination. So hear me out, follow me, visualize with me, girl. Part of this place is understanding that there's going to be turns and there's going to be curves and it's okay. And your journey is not going to look like mine and mine's not going to look like yours. And embracing how much you've already done, you've already battled, you've already gone through. I want you to take a moment just to pat yourself on the back and embrace the fact you're listening to the show today because you want to experience freedom. That in itself is something to call out. It's something to be thoughtful of. It's something to acknowledge and embrace. And I don't care where you are along your journey and your process, the only way to fully recover and fully transform is going to be to fully surrender. And you can't change halfway and expect total transformation, right? If you change halfway, you're going to get half transformation. According to renewedsupport.org, in quasi-recovery, you may lack clinical significance and not even meet criteria of an eating disorder. But maybe you're consistently struggling with your food and your body image and your relationship with them. This may look like challenging eating disorder in some areas, and in other areas, you're still maintaining control over yourself and your food. I want to talk a little bit about some of these different signs of what it looks like to be in this place of messy middle. And some of them are checking nutrition labels if you're doing that regularly, or allowing cheat days or treats, or only certain treats, or only certain times a week where you allow yourself to have certain things. Or maybe you're still labeling food as good or bad, or some food is off limits. And that voice inside of you wants you to restrict, or wants you to purge, or wants you to binge, and you don't, but you still are controlling some things for that coping mechanism. And so you're still fearing maybe weight gain or being out of control, and you typically turn to safe things, rigid routines, safe foods. And it's okay if you're there. That just means you've come farther than, you might even want to acknowledge. And you do realize that there's been some progress. Maybe you aren't at the lowest of your lows anymore, or maybe you are, a friend, and that's okay. I want you to listen to this conversation because this is part of the journey and this is what you're up against, and it's okay. This path to food freedom, this path to being free of food controlling your life is the most rewarding thing you'll ever experience. If you trust that there's going to be windy roads and there's going to be curvy roads, and if you follow the road, you're going to get there. Progress isn't possible without change. But why change halfway? Why be stuck? Why only go up to a certain point and then sit there and put a stake in the sand and say, I'm no longer doing this. I'm only going to recover on my terms. Theodore Roosevelt once said, believe you can, and you're halfway there. So sister, maybe if you're finding yourself in this place of like the halfway zone, I want this more than I want anything, but I just can't simply get what it is that I'm after. I want you to believe in your heart in the power of surrender. Because I fully believe that there is power in surrendering to the process. And no matter what that process requires of you. And that's the key. We want to put our rules on what recovery means in our life, and we have to live a life without rules. Let's break the freaking chains. If we want full recovery, we have to be fully present to whatever that experience provides, which means we have to believe we can, because we're already halfway there by just believing it's possible for us. And then we have to do no matter what that requires. And so today I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. And again, this point in the process is not something to be ashamed of. So I'm stressing that today, friend, because I want you to hear me. You're not alone, and you don't have to do this alone. And in fact, this is typically the tipping point where I receive a lot of clients and their journey. It's typically where they're tired of trying to do this by themselves. It's typically where you're tired of struggling. You're tired. You're tired. Girl, yes, I feel you. I was there. That's where recovery coaching comes in and is so important, because it can help you with that accountability. It can help you with what those triggers are that you're experiencing and letting go of that false sense of self and really focusing on how we can move forward through this journey and this process. And what does that transformation look like to you? And why are you doing it? And what does your best self look like for you in your life? So today I want you to ask yourself a couple questions if you find yourself in this place. What am I afraid to surrender? What am I afraid to surrender? If I'm feeling halfway and I'm only allowing myself to halfway surrender, what is the part that I'm afraid to surrender to? What am I making that part mean? What is that fear? What is that thing inside of your being that's like, well, I'll only do this if this? What beliefs do I need to let go of in order to dive all in? If you could have a clean sheet of paper, and I want you to do this today if you get a moment, because I truly feel like it's going to help you and inspire you and reset this clean slate and the stage to propel this process forward in your life. Because surrendering to disordered eating once and for all is going to mean surrendering to the entire process, whatever that means. If you are at this place of stuckness, if you are at this place where you're like, well, I'm only going to do this, but my way of doing it, then you're still not fully surrendering to the process. And that's okay. That just means that we have work to do. And who doesn't love work to do, right? I mean, if you're a high achiever like me anyways. When you're in this place, the truth here is that it's all, in my personal opinion, around belief. And so in order to change our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and ultimately our outcomes of freedom, we have to change the beliefs that we have that are tied to this within our soul. And this is where it's really important to align not only just your physical needs, right? So maybe you are following a meal plan, or maybe you're starting that. Maybe you are working towards that self-discovery and reflection, and you are thinking about some of those mental gaps that you have that are popping up, and that voice inside of your head challenging you, and you challenging it back. And some days are better than others. And your soul, maybe you're leaning into that spiritual side and really like, what is it that I'm supposed to be here for? And what is my purpose here? It's so much larger than this disordered relationship with food and body and myself. But the beliefs of what you cherish, of what you believe are true, right? Those beliefs could look like skinny is best, or fat is bad, or a salad is the best option for lunch. Whatever that looks like to you, like literally facing those beliefs and going, is this even real? Or was I programmed to believe it's truth? Girlfriend, when you can start believing in you again, you're halfway there. And you can't change halfway. But in order to fully recover, which is so extremely available to you, just like it has been for me, is to fully surrender. Fully surrender. Progress isn't possible without change. But why change halfway? I fully believe that there's power in you fully surrendering to the process, no matter what that means for you in your life, because you weren't made to do this alone, and you sure as heck weren't made to do this halfway. So girl, if you're looking for some support today, hop on over to lindsaynickel.com and you can fill out a client application and I'll make sure to get back to you. For today's episode, I just want you to know it's okay to be where you are right now. It's okay to be there. Honor how far you've come. Surrender to what's been so that you can embrace what's yet to be and believe it's possible for you. I'll talk to you soon, girl. See you next week. Oh, friend, thank you so much for letting me share what was on my heart today. My hope for this podcast is to help more women find freedom from food and body. If this has empowered or blessed you, let me know. I'd be honored for your rating and review of my show, and I'd love to connect with you in my private Facebook community. You really can move from perfection to purpose. Let's break the chains together. I'll help navigate the way. Until next time, bye for now, girl.